Ooh, welcome back. Welcome back. It has been another week, and we are here. What's going on, my man?
Not a whole lot, man. How you been?
I have been. I'm gonna leave it there. I have been, but I am vertical, and I am online with you. So I've made it. I
We
made it.
made it.
We've made it.
All
Well,
right.
if you're curious where you made it to, you have made it to the Off the Rails podcast with Travis and Mitch. We like to call ourselves the Style Boys.
That's right. That's right.
Mostly because it annoys our kids, but it's also a fun play on words.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been a week on my side, and we've done really good this week. We've stayed true to form. We haven't talked all week.
I was looking. I don't think so.
Well, we talked. Let's back that up because there is some big news that we can cover real quick. I think we sent a couple of messages. I think Tuesday night was the last time that we sent a message to each other. But we're on the verge. So it's Sunday, the 12th of February right now. This coming Wednesday, we're supposed to get our final drawings for our cover art. And that is
Hallelujah.
yes, sir. That is the last piece that we're waiting on to go live. So I'm super stoked about it. The preliminary drawings have, boy, have they been interesting. I don't know if you've ever dealt with an internet company before that. How do you say it nicely? Farms these types of tasks out, and they typically are tapped out to different countries.
Yeah.
The first one did great. The one Mitch did one, got the logo done. We got that nailed down. Love the logo. So the logo's been in place pretty much since we started recording, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
And then once we got the logo nailed down of what we wanted that part to be, we needed to move forward and to be able to get cover art done for some different social media stuff and for what you see when you go online to pick the podcast to play it. And it's a process. It's not simple, and it's not the artist's fault. I would say it's 95% my fault because I'm not artistic, and I have a vague idea of we had a vague idea of what we wanted to look like. But man, trying to translate that, and I mean literally translate that to a guy in Indonesia, because I hate to be that guy, but on this situation, we're just trying to do it on the cheap and as fast as we can. So we don't have a whole lot of knowledge as far as finding somebody that does this type of thing. And
the way that works is you just kind of, pick some random person, basically, right? Like you don't specifically go after this one or the next one. You just kind of pick somebody and hope for the best. But yeah, broken English when you're trying to discuss like minute details about a drawing in broken English in two different cultures, I might add, because apparently we're used to how certain things look over here, and when you tell them you want it in that, and then they put in their version, and then it comes back to us, and we're like, what in the world is this?
Yeah, that's the man. That's been the challenge, and I mean, it started off with we're supposed to be driving a train, and I think we mentioned last time the first one got back was like us in a taxi cab or something. I don't know, but we should be getting that back this week, and I'm super stoked about it. The preliminary drawing, I mean, I think he nailed it. And when we say it's and the biggest thing is the time delay. Like when it's daytime here, it's nighttime there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you get 3 or 4 messages. And then that's kind of it for the day because he's getting ready to go to bed, or
one of y'all
you're
starting
your work day. I mean, we do have to try to make a living in the middle of trying to kick this podcast off. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so that's the last piece we're waiting on to go live. So I'm really hoping I'm going to get hard on editing this week, to get the first episode edited and lined up the way we want it, so that when we get the cover art in place, we can submit that to the various things that you got to submit that to, and hopefully we'll be live not too long after that. And
I hope so.
All 10 of you will have found us.
Yeah, and of course, this means nothing to you, because you're listening to it on the podcast app. And so we're struggling in past tense to future people. Is that right?
We just want you to know how hard we struggled to bring this to you.
Yeah,
5
because
episodes later.
I don't have good looks going for me. So
I have a face for radio, that's for sure. I don't even know why we're recording this.
If we're going to, and our lives are only so interesting. So we had to come up with some interesting cover art. And so that takes a little bit, Hey, guys, how about let's record a podcast and just shoot it up and put it on Apple. It is not that easy, man.
Not if you really, and I don't know what I expect this to do, but I don't want to come at it with the intentions of it doing nothing.
Right, exactly.
But I'm realistic in what I think it's going to do. I think it's going to be a very slow climb, but I do think that we have the ability to gain some traction, and I do think we have the ability to entertain people, and I think it will slowly gain. So I want. There's going to be mistakes, and there's going to be things that we say, "Oh man, I wish we'd have known this." But we're also not trying to come at it completely from amateur hour. Like we are trying to put it together semi-professionally. So it's a slow roll. I mean, it really is.
But I'll tell you this week, I have gotten a lot of messages and text and, Facebook Messenger, random conversation.
Yeah.
About what's this I'm hearing about a podcast. I mean, so there's a lot of people I think now that are finding out about it. The people that are asking me, they seem to be really interested in at least listening to it. So coming from that, if you just take that, we're like, hey, we're two good ones that are going to sit down and talk about what we do for a living. And people are like, I think I want to hear that. And by the way,
we're kind of funny sometimes.
Yeah, we can. And as we go, I think we'll get a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, we don't really know how this sounds on the actual podcast app yet. So we're doing, maybe we're doing too much, not enough. I don't know.
But we could have the production part of this thing completely screwed up.
Yeah, we're gonna constantly try to not suck and not make it worse and continue to get better. But dude, I mean, I'm having a ball. I don't know about anybody listening, but I'm having a ball with it.
Well, I know, yeah, and I know on Sunday morning, so we try to record on Sundays. Right now, that seems to be like the best day. That may change in the future, who knows? But I know at least on Sunday mornings when I wake up, especially after the week I've just had, my wife's like, "You guys recording today?" I'm like, "Yep." Like, it's not,
absolutely.
I'm like, it's not like, yeah, or hell, I reckon, it's, I mean, I'm looking forward to catching up. I'm looking forward to, kind of talking. I've actually found it to kind of be a little bit of a stress relief on my part, because I get to talk to somebody besides my wife, but I get to talk to somebody who actually understands what I'm saying.
Had that conversation with my wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, it's almost like a therapy session.
In a way, it is.
And I mean, because our jobs don't suck. We love what we do. But at
the
same time, nobody outside of this is going to, really, like my wife is not going to want to sit there for 2 hours and let me jammer on about what happened that week. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, you're already in a family business. I mean, she's already there in it with you. And so at the dinner table, this is probably the last thing she wants to continue talking about is work. So.
But talking about it with somebody who understands, and we kind of want that to translate into the listeners, right? So you guys, if you, not necessarily cabinetry, but if you're doing this sort of thing on your own or whatever, you can kind of relate to kind of what we're going through. We want you guys to be like, oh yeah, I've been there, or, stuff like that. That's kind of the whole point. But yeah, I was going to mention that the builder called me, one of them, and said, "Hey man," he said, "El Capitan." I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Man, what's all this I hear about some kind of podcast?" And I said, "Oh yeah." So I talked to him for a minute. He said, "Man, send me a link or something. He said, I think I want to listen to that. And I said, okay. And, he's known me for years,
Yeah.
And I've gotten some comments from people that we both know that.
The pop-ups from high school people have been funny to me.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
like, oh, man, I can't wait. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a couple pop-ups, and then once, a couple people I haven't even heard y'all, because we exchange things through like social media, but they're like, I haven't heard you. I haven't heard you talk, in 20 years,
that's
so
right.
it's kind of weird. I'm like, well, it probably hasn't changed a whole lot. Hopefully maybe it's gained a little bit intellectually, but probably not.
Yeah. Well, back then we knew everything. Now we.
Oh yeah, we're
we
willing to admit that we don't know some things. Yeah, that's true. Well, man, tell me about your week.
All right.
What's going
on? This week, you remember the house behind the house? We've been working on that.
Oh yeah.
It has rained the last 3 days. And for those of you who may not know, I drive a 2012 Dodge Ram 2500 long wheelbase crew
Mopar,
cab.
baby, Mopar.
Absolutely. And she is a heavy girl. And what she does not like is wet, sloppy mud with a 20-foot enclosed trailer behind it.
Oh, double axle or tandem
Double
or
axle.
triple?
Yeah, tandem.
Okay.
So, that always makes things interesting when you pull up to a job site, especially here with the dynamic of these people are living in campers between the houses. So it's not like you can just pull in there and ruin everything. And, so there's certain spots that we've kind of designated as turnaround areas and stuff. Luckily, didn't do too bad. The only thing is you have to really be close enough to the house where you're not, as you unload the trailer, you do not have to walk in the dirt. That's something I always try to do.
Yeah.
Is get the back of the trailer all the way back. And we had 2 cabinets. One is a fridge wrap that is 116 inches tall, 40 inches wide, and 31 inches deep. It would not go through the garage, in the door, down the hallway, turn the corner, and go in the kitchen. The other one is the oven cabinet, built-in oven. It's 116 tall, 32 wide, 25 and a half deep. It wouldn't go through there. So we had to go around the front of the house, and when I tell you, I stepped in red mud up to my ankle, toting this huge cabinet. I almost fell. It was ridiculous. Now, luckily, there's no flooring in this house.
Right.
So, if we track mud in, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Clean it up. Dust
not
your
fun,
shoes off.
but not.
Yeah, you're not
end of the
hurting
world.
anything. Yeah.
And I don't know if for those listening, I know there's some slippery muds in the U.S. especially, but I'm gonna tell you something. Red clay, it's slick as house not when it's wet.
It is.
I mean, it can be like walking on ice.
And don't picture like getting stuck and your tires are just buried down to your axle. No, you're an eighth of an inch deep.
Yeah, you're looking at it and going, how are you possibly stuck? I can see all of the nub on your tire. How can you possibly be stuck?
I remember all 4 tires spinning before the trailer had got into something soft. So you might as well had wheel chocks on it. And this was a long time ago. That builder actually had to pull me out about 9:30 at night. But anyway, all 4 tires were just sitting there just spinning. And it's like, there's nothing I can do, man.
Yeah.
But so anyway,
you almost need snow chains for this kind of for in red clay.
You think I'd get a winch, but I'm too cheap. So we got the cabinet set in the rear house. The color of the island is Priscilla, and it is a Sherwin-Williams color. I believe it's 6575.
Priscilla, as in like
Priscilla Presley.
Priscilla Presley.
If you guys want to look that up, I believe it's SW6575, if I'm remembering that right. If I remember that, dude, that's a miracle. But anyway, it is.
I'll Google it while you talk.
Yeah, it is a somewhat of kind of like a dirty pink. It's not as bright as Pepto-Bismol. It's kind of like a faded pink. And it's one of those where I don't know what color this is until I open the can and stir the paint. People give us, and actually that's a topic we're gonna cover one time, I think.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like a muted Pepto-Bismol.
Yep, it's horrible.
I mean, if you took a cup of Pepto and put, I don't know, a shot of white in it.
Or yeah, almost it's almost got a tan hue. If you like when you see it in person, it's almost like somebody spilled a little bit of tan in it. It's a weird color, kind of makes you a little nauseous and your eyeballs swell. But other than that,
Kind of like my face right now, actually. It's probably about that same color.
but anyway, and man, everybody was talking about it, and but like I said, it's a surprise in the can. When we stir it up, I was like, this ain't right, and I called the mixed guy. No, I looked it up, and sure enough, it was that color. So we did all that. We painted everybody, like the builders and the sheetrockers. Everybody had heard about this magical pink unicorn island, and so they really wanted to see it.
What are the accompanying colors to go with that? What do you pick?
So the walls are some sort of just like a mid-tone gray, or like a really light gray. I have no idea what color the granite is, and I have no idea what color the floors are going to be. But white trim. Now, like I said, these people, I love these people to death. They're super easy to get along with, man. Like they appreciate the people that come out there to work. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like, hey,
You don't always find that.
right, you did a great job, man. This stuff looks good. Just that one little comment, man, really helps us out. You know what I'm saying? Because some customers are so high and mighty, and they're like, oh, look, another contractor. He's probably out smoking dope or doing this. You know how contractors get this bad reputation and look down the nose at you and stuff, not realizing that you just put 2 or 3 weeks, into building all this custom cabinetry for them. But,
Yeah, and I was just at a house, I think it was last week. Anyway, I was there twice. I was there for the main install, and then I had to go back and do a touch-up piece. Literally did not say a word to me the entire time I was there.
mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, is that... I kind of text my partner. I was like, is this normal? Like, he's like, yeah, she's just kind of quiet like that. I was like, but it seems... I was like, well, I'm glad to find out it's not just me, but man, it makes you feel very awkward,
Yeah.
I mean, not even hello. I mean, it was... Because I always send I'm on my way text, and it was, hey, the door's open.
Yeah.
And I mean, walk by, good morning. As I walked in, went upstairs, start working. And as I left, hey, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Nothing. Not a word.
Some of them do. Some of them are like that. I don't understand that. Like, if I have somebody in my house that's working for me, man, I'm gonna be like, hey, you need a glass of tea, piece of pound cake, you want a donut, just be cordial.
I would just say hello.
Yeah. We got those set, and with these jobs, there's a lot of weird stuff, like stuff that we don't normally do. A lot of stained tops, a lot of painted tops, a lot of floating shelves, a lot of knee spaces. These people have islands in their closet. Upstairs, they got a couple of desks that are going between walls.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of tops. And, we go and we make templates of the opening, and we transfer those templates here. We build the tops oversized and then cut them down. So hopefully when we get there, they just slide right in, and you don't have to do a lot of, scribing and cutting. Because that, my rule is if we can do it in the shop, let's do it in the shop.
Yeah.
By the time we get on the job site, let's have it all done and ready to go.
That's how I do every, coming in post-construction, that's how I do every countertop. Every countertop is at least an inch oversized, and then track saw.
Yeah.
I run that track saw on it, baby, every time.
These were notched. So the desks and the knee space, so picture the closet, you got like shelves on both sides, and then there's a 48-inch opening, and she wanted a knee space with a drawer stack on either side to go in between, the 2 runs of shelves.
Yeah.
And so the top is like a T shape. So it took a little bit of finagling. But anyway, we got it. We got everything ready to go finish up one job. We're waiting on doors and all that stuff for the Pink Island and that house. I did screw up on 2 things.
I'm writing this down because I don't hear that you screw up very often.
Well,
I want to make sure that your wife has a note of it as well.
Yeah, that's just because I decide not to tell you when I screw up.
2/12/23.
Come on now.
Screws up.
Yeah, write it down. Holler at me in a few months.
I got it on the notepad.
So in house number 1 in the front, the overheads over the washer and dryer went between walls, right? So the way we do that is we put a 2-inch stile on the end, and then we overhang it a 1/4 inch. So the only thing touching the wall is the edge of the stile. That keeps you out of the sheetrock mud in the corner, and all that stuff. Well, this is the same house in the back, right? So we just copy and paste and, of course, adjusted, the measurements. However, the house in the back wasn't in between walls. The left side of those were exposed, so that's a finished end.
So you got a finished end.
So I get there, and I had to do them in 2 pieces. Well, actually, I didn't have to, but again, I just copied and pasted, right? I got into that. Same thing. Let's just copy and paste and adjust. Right. So I took the first one in, and then I took the second one in, and I was like, wait a minute. One of these is supposed to have a finished end. And I knew it. I mean, I don't know why I sit and look at it like I'm going to come up with some magical solution.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm like, man, what am I? I was like, you know what, dude? You can't fix this.
No.
So we had to take it back and put a finished end on it and route it and fix it so it's all ready to go back over there. And, of course, I told the builder, me and him get along really good too. And I said, yeah, screw that up. And then I had to call him. And this is going to get complicated, so I'm going to trying to decide how I need to. Okay, so they have a step-up ceiling in the kitchen. Right,
so everywhere. Like a tray?
Yep, everywhere in the house is 10 feet. But on the cooktop wall, on the cabinet wall in the kitchen, it goes up to 12 feet. All right, so you got oven on the left, then you got a base cabinet, then a cooktop in the middle, then a base cabinet, then the refrigerator wrap all the way on the right. Well, I had the idea. I said, and this guy uses Cove molding, and so I wanted the Cove molding on the right side of the refrigerator to cove out and touch the 10-foot ceiling. Okay, so the fridge is right, the right side of the fridge is right on the line between the 10-foot ceiling and the 12-foot ceiling. The fridge is right there. Gotcha. So I wanted the, and I'm showing him on camera, I wanted the crown to come over and hit the 10-foot ceiling on the bottom.
Gotcha.
So there was a specific, like the right side of the fridge cabinet had to be, right on that line pretty much. What I did not account for was there was a receptacle box on the wall behind the fridge. And I didn't catch that because I spent my time trying to make sure the crown was going to work out.
Gotcha.
And I didn't spend my time to make sure there wasn't a receptacle box on the wall that was going to be, causing interference. So sure enough, man, I set the base cabinet, and then I was going to set the fridge wrap, and I looked, and I saw a box. I said, man, that box is, that fridge box is going to cover that up. So I called the builder, and he says, yeah, I'll be over there in a little bit. And I said, okay. And that's another thing, man. Call the builder. Before you go to moving stuff and trying to figure stuff out on your own, it's not your house. That house belongs to the builder. He is responsible for whatever happens in that home until the homeowner buys it from the builder, essentially.
Yeah. And whoever did the work is the one whose name's on it too. Like, don't just go moving somebody else's electrical without. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, so no touching.
You mess up Jimmy John's electrical company.
Yeah, which that's funny too because he called her. Anyway, he comes over there and he looks at it and he's like, "Well, shoot, man, let's just move it to the left." It only needed to go to the left 1.5 inches, and it would be out from behind the fridge.
The outlet did.
Yep. Okay. So guess what's on the left side of the outlet? A stud. Okay.
Of course.
He goes, "Man, we may have enough wire though to move the outlet on the other side of the stud. We're trying to figure out if the wire comes up or down or whatever." So he kind of notches the sheetrock because they're getting backsplash, right? So he notches the sheetrock out, another stud.
Oh, of course it's doubled.
Oh, no. Notches the sheetrock out, another stud. Notches the sheetrock out, another stud. They had 4 studs. It must have been some kind of load-bearing wall or something.
Must carry a load all the way up to the roof then. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had 4 studs stacked in there. So moving it to the left is not an option. And I told him, I said, dude, it's on me, man. Like, I was trying to figure out all this crown. I didn't even pay the receptacles any attention in the back. He's like, oh, that's okay. So he calls the electrician. It's the electrician's daughter. She's an electrician as well. And I could hear her on the phone. And he was like, yeah, the refrigerator's hitting this receptacle and all that. And she said, well, we're going to have to move that receptacle. He said, yeah, we're probably going to have to move it. And I heard, and we get along fine with the electrical lady. But she's like, you tell that cabinet man that he needs to be more, and all this. And so we cut up about that, But again, that goes back to, remember we talked about a few episodes ago, getting along with everybody on the job site. Don't come in thinking you're better than everybody.
Well, because it's just a matter of time before it's you that needs the favor.
Exactly.
Like, not, before, you could easily jump up and down, at a previous house and be like, oh, you stupid electrician, da, da, da. If you hadn't done this, we wouldn't have been in this world. And now the tables are turned and you need the favor from the electrician. Like, why would you do that to another trade? Like,
that's right.
The heartache of the trade life, especially in new construction. There's headaches. There's plenty of them, and there's changes constantly, and sometimes those changes aren't made on prints, and et cetera. So yeah, you got to be fluid.
Yeah.
So that you.
Yeah. And of course, she had to ride me a little bit and
of course
poke fun at me and all that. And she's like, well, I'm just gonna I'll probably charge him $3,000 or $4,000 to move that plug and this and that. And of course the builder's just. He's, yucking it up and all this stuff. Yeah, and I was sitting there like, oh, boy. Right. But I was like, you can't say nothing, dude. Like,
no, you just got to sit there and suck it up.
Yeah, you got to sit and take it, But anyway, that happened. And then, oddly enough, despite having the Orsi system, despite having the guy that's supposed to come, every so often and check inventory. So Orsi is a big rack with all my consumables. He comes and checks. I give him a minimum and maximum of each thing. If I do not have my minimum, he orders it, sends it on the truck. Well, they've been busy and all this stuff, and so I was like, well, I'll get to it later. Ran out of 18 gauge, narrow crown, 7/8 staples, which is a specific staple size that I need.
I think that's actually the last message of the week that you sent me.
Yep. And I had to drive an hour one way to get a box of overpriced staples from the dude. It hurt me paying that much for staples.
It does. Yeah. When you get used to not paying big box prices and you have to go buy something big box, it's just like a dagger to the heart.
I get 4 times the amount of staples for the same dollar amount as what they sold me. And I was like, dude, I'd have to shut the shop down if I had to pay this. But again, I thought I had another box, and I went and grabbed. Dude, I was cocky with it too, man. I was like, yeah, I got another box. I said, don't worry, Trey, I got to go grab a box of staples. He's like, all right. And I come back and I got the box of staples, man, just thinking everything's fine. I opened the box up, and they're 1/2 inch.
Oh.
And I said, well, that ain't good.
Right.
And so now I'm frantic. Like, I'm robbing staples out of other guns. I'm looking in drawers. I'm like, I know I got to, nope, you got to go.
All those times you chunked a couple of staples to the side.
Yeah. When you had 2 of them in the gun.
I get like 3 or 4 staples. I'm like, I just chunked those. So a whole new, I don't know, what's a full thing of staples called, or nails? I don't even know what you call it.
I call them a book.
A book? Okay.
I don't know if that's.
I like that.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm like, hand me a book of nails. Hand me a book of staples.
Book of staples. Okay, I'm going to use that book.
So those are my screw-ups. Is I didn't finish the side of that cabinet. I got caught up in copy and paste. Luckily, the length was right, so I don't have to rebuild it. And ran out of staples and covered a plug up.
Well, it's funny that you say that because my screw-up is almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that pretty much catches up my week. We're building some hive tops for Southern Sweet Bee. I think he's here now.
Mike?
Yeah, he is
that
here.
for Mike the Bee Man?
Mike the Bee Man. He's actually here right now picking. I'm looking at him on the camera. He's picking them up. Should I go get him?
I don't know that we're ready. I don't know that we're ready.
Yeah, we're not set up.
Because you're not set up to for both of y'all to talk.
But anyway, he's picking them up. So he's starting to raise queens for the state of Alabama.
It's not the queens that have been in the news. These are bee queens.
No. Yeah, these are bee queens. Dude is a magician with bees, man. But anyway, y'all will meet him. He'll be on. He's excited about coming on. Anyway. Yeah.
Southern Sweet Bee. Check that out, too.
Yeah, Southern Sweet Bee. So he is, he's picking up the tops now. That's something that Trey wanted to do on the weekends and stuff, make a little extra money. And he's like, hey, you mind if I if I do those? And I was like, heck no, man, you can have them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much caught our week up. It's this week coming up is going to be really busy. But that was me. What about you? What
Man.
about you?
What about me? It's been interesting, for sure. My note for this week when I typed in the notes was, let me quote it because I don't want to mess it up. It was, where's it at? I have messed something up feeling ... but I had an expletive in there.
But it
And
wasn't a full expletive.
I did not
Yeah.
type the full expletive. I did use just an F and a apostrophe. I walked in the shop Monday morning. I said, man, got a few things to knock out. Got this pretty big laundry room install going in Wednesday. Let's get after it. Got my cup of coffee in my hand, look, stretch a little bit, and I look at two cabinets sitting over there, and I said, those are too big. I don't know why. I don't know what, but I was like, yep, they're too big. Go over there and measure them. Sure enough, they were too big. They were too deep. So, same exact thing that happened to you, really. The copy and paste got me. So, I drew these cabinets up, and I think I kind of mentioned it, but these had some open shelves in the bottom of them. So, I swapped them, and instead of it being one big unit with open shelves, I swapped it, made it closed cabinets with open shelves so that the open shelf section was MDF. So, it would paint better. Well, the two right-hand sides were 32-inch deep, 30-inch deep uppers. They're going over washer and dryer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they're going over a washer and dryer. The customer is like 5'2". She's like, the further you pull them out, the better I got a chance of actually using them. I'm like, yep. So we pulled them way out deep. So I made those copied, paste, and then the third one, which is the ones that were messed up, is supposed to be, it's a much taller open box because she's going to put a laundry hanger in it. But it's sitting on top of a cabinet that's 26 inches deep. So it would have overhung the cabinet that it's sitting on top of by 4 inches.
She's hitting her head every time she goes to get something.
I was like, oh my gosh. I'm looking around. I don't have enough material on hand to redo the boxes.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
so that's out. So redoing them is out. So creative thinking. Luckily enough, I was able to actually break out the track saw, cut the back off of them, cut it down 4 inches, and reinstall my nailers. Really fine cut. I actually cut the back like 3 times, and just kind of fine dialed it in because I lost my dado. I always dado my backs.
Yeah.
Well, because of this situation, I lost my dado. So I cut the back a couple of times to fine tune it to get in there just squeaky tight and locked it in there. So you'll never tell that it's not in a dado.
Yeah.
But I had to do that to the upper cabinet and the middle cabinet. So it's 3 cabinets. So the base in this situation is actually dog kennels. And then the open cabinet for hanging clothes, and then the upper cabinet above that for clothes storage. So got those knocked down. It didn't take that long. I mean, I think in an hour I was done and ready to move on to the next thing. But man, just that sinking feeling of, oh boy, what am I going to do? You know, and that's and that's another topic in our thing. And I don't know that that's a topic to even like dedicate time to, because I think that's part of the trade, and that is creative ways of problem solving.
Yeah. Because
it's just like little things that you run into. There's an outlet that you didn't count on or you didn't realize was there. I had one a while back that there was an outlet that I didn't even know was there during the consult show up, and the customer's like, oh yeah, there's an outlet back there I need access to. I'm like, I didn't even know it was there. And you know where it lined up with? All the center supports for the cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dead smack on where the cabinet was put together at. I'm like, there's nothing I can do. I mean,
And then if you move the center, if you move, we call those partitions, but if you move that center partition to the left or the right, now your openings aren't symmetrical.
Right. Well, this was actually where two cabinets met together.
Oh yeah, well, there's nothing you can do about that.
I was like, I mean, we're post construct. I mean, we're not in build phase, so it's not like, well, just have the electrician move the outlet.
Yeah.
I mean, no,
that's a win in my camp.
Yeah, right. We're there. I did have a creative solution though that I'm not proud of what we had to do, but when you're in the post construction world, we have to do things that you have to creatively think. So we were trying to slide that big middle section into place actually, and it just wasn't going. And I said, man, what is going on here? And it's a big MDF cabinet, and Derek and I are both we're tired at this point. Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, it's just not going to fit. And we've already trimmed on the face. I leave a pretty good scribe on the face.
Yeah.
It's all trimmed. We're done. Because the right-hand wall, we've worked our way from right to left. And the right-hand wall on the very first cabinet that we started off was so jacked, it ate like a half an inch.
Yep.
And so by the time we're 2 rows down now and on the left-hand corner, we're in tight situation. And I've left over an inch of play total, for these cabinets, and we're out of play. We have there's no more play, and we're looking, and he's like, the cabinet is not even going to go with the face trimmed down flush to the box. It's not going to go. And we set the cabinet down, and we're kind of exhausted, and we look at it. And I said, give me that tape. I said, measure from the back corner forward. Give me 26 inches. I was like, and put me dead on it. I want to make sure I was taking a square measurement. Mm-hmm. Pull across the front. I've got room. I'm like, the measurement says it'll fit. I was like, put me in the back corner. Pull the back corner, pull it across. It's tight. I was like, that corner is killing us. That corner is diving in like nobody's business.
And is it like, so you're talking like a mud buildup kind of thing, probably?
Probably. It's either the mud or just, we got a bad lay in the drywall, or where it's coming to the corner. Right, the corner's tighter than the wall, basically, and that's normal. A lot of times the corner is more of a 90 than say 26 inches out, and the wall's kind of gotten out of square now. Yeah, I was like, the drywall's got to go, man. That's the only solution in our world. So yeah, I had to cut out like 10 inches of drywall forwards from the corner out, and then all the way down the length of the cabinet. Took that drywall out. She slid in like a glove. I mean, just as perfect as could be. And that's not the solution I like to do, but we've
had to do that. Yeah, exactly. We've had to do that with bowed wall. You'll run into, I remember we had a set of cabinets and then a dishwasher space and then another set of cabinets. And for whatever reason, the wall had this huge kink in it at the dishwasher. So the fronts of the cabinets going all the way down the line were not even close to being lined up. But when you're setting them, you verify your 24-inch opening or whatever for your dishwasher, and you set the cabinets. And then I get a phone call from the builder, and he said, yeah, granite guys, they're kind of poo-pooing on that. And I go over there and look, and I'm like, well, I don't know, like, what are we supposed to do, And we wound up cutting the sheetrock out from behind the cabinets.
Yeah,
and
pulling it in.
Yeah, there's no reason, why you can't do that. If now you got to be careful on what wall you do it, in your situation. But where we were at, that was absolutely okay. Interior wall, there was nothing in there. There was nothing that was going to be compromised or whatever. And
it's just one of those things when I always think about the next guy that comes in there behind me, and who knows when these cabinets will ever be moved out. When they pull that cabinet down, they see that chunk of drywall missing there and go, what in the hell happened here?
But that is a very interesting paradox about when you said you pull a measurement left to right and say it's 100 inches, okay? Well, you can't tell the geometry of the wall. Let's exaggerate it. Let's say the walls are tilted to the right 20 degrees.
Right.
All right. Well, think about that. Your walls are angling over to the right 20 degrees. You're still going to have 100 inches in between them.
Correct.
at any given point. But when you put that cabinet in there and now you level that cabinet up, you're touching at the bottom, but there's a 2-inch gap at the top. Guess what? You just lost that to whatever the wall is out of level, you lose on your width.
Right.
So,
and kind of what you were saying earlier, and we both do this because I got this from you, is we both overhang face frames. So if you're trying to understand what we're saying, so let's think about a box. Okay, so you've got a box, and that's your cabinet, and then you've got your face frame, which is the decorative part that looks flat that your door closes against. Well, what we do is we take the edge of that face frame and overhang it on the outside of the box by a quarter to a half inch, depends on the situations. Like I've got one that I'm fixing to have to scribe to a bunch of rock. It'll have this will have a 2-inch overhang on it.
Yep.
So that I can scribe that rock and I don't have to worry about hitting the cabinet. But that is your allowance, so that when you go back to the corner, that the back corner of your cabinet, we don't care if the wall is bowed in or bowed out. We don't care because we've got that half inch of leeway in the front.
Yeah.
To make a square wall, and I hope that's translating across.
Because the box
no visuals.
Yep. The box is smaller than the frame, so
correct.
The box will fit in the opening, and the frame is designed to be tight left to right.
Yeah, like the box itself would be 20 inches outside to outside, and then your frame would be 21 inches outside to outside, because we've given ourselves a half an inch overhang.
Because you got to miss that mud. You know, they always build the mud up in the corner and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, but they got that install going. That install went Wednesday. Install went good. Starting to wrap it up. My partner left as I was wrapping it up. And all of a sudden Wednesday I got hotter than hell while I was working. I said, man, this is weird. And a little woozy. I said, man, this is okay. So I kind of sat down for a second. It's weird. I said, well, I got to get done, you know. And so I'm pushing through, and by the time I'm starting to pack up, it's not good. I am feeling like run over dog poop. I mean, it's not good. I've texted my wife. I'm like, hey, I know for. You know that feeling when you're not feeling well? You know what I'm saying? Like, not just, I don't feel great. Like, that feeling of it's coming in and it hits my knees. Like, it hits my knees.
Yeah.
And I start getting cold. So, by the time I got done, got back to the shop, unloaded tools, and by the time I got home, I just wanted to crawl in the bed. Mm-hmm. Well, that's where I spent the next 3 days. Mm. I got up. Today is the first day I've actually left my room. I actually went to the shop today and did a little bit of work. So, I mean, I spent Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I mean, done skis. I mean, it was terrible. I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but I mean, it's the first time that not having restrooms at my shop has been an issue. Yeah. I'll just say that.
Yep.
I was
a bad feeling.
I'll push through a lot and work, but I was like, you know what? That's not an option. There's not an option there, buddy.
You'd be pushing through, all right.
Oh man, yeah, it was a rough. I mean, and I'm not a go to the doctor kind of guy, but I mean, I was tempted by about Friday afternoon. It actually was I actually felt so bad coming home on Wednesday. I called my wife. I was like, hey, how early do you think they can detect a flu? And I was like, because I really feel like that's what's coming on. I was like, if I can get it, if I can get a flu test and they'll give me some meds so I can get ahead of this thing, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
I feel that bad already. And she's like, I just can't believe that it's setting that fast. And I was like, I'm telling you, I am downhill. I mean,
a man down,
you know, and so, and the bad thing about this is what a lot of people don't realize, and I hear this all the time, and it frustrates me, is, oh, you got it made, run your own business, do what you want when you want.
Oh yeah, you think?
Well, that has some truth to it, right? I mean, I had a situation. What was it? Was that last summer? I was actually down in Alabama. I had a major issue happen with my truck. I called Mitch and I was like, "Hey man, what are you doing tomorrow?" He's like, "I don't know. What do you need me to do?" Like, And I don't know what you really had on your schedule to do that day, but I mean, he dropped whatever it was and helped tow my truck to Troy. I mean,
Yeah.
to move it, you know, to get it fixed because I couldn't get a tow. Anyway, that's a whole nother ball of wax. That's how we became Ram buddies.
Yeah, there you go. I
But
talked to you. I was like pushing him. I was like, hey man, get a Dodge, man, get a Dodge.
well, I mean, and then
Now your
the other
mirrors
side,
all melted
then,
off.
then the other side of the story was, there were no other vehicles to buy except for a
Yep.
Ram.
Yep.
I mean, I couldn't get anything. I mean, I was about to rent a U-Haul just to be able to drive home, and couldn't even get that. This is middle of pandemic. But you know, when people say that, it's kind of frustrating because it does. You do have the flexibility, but whatever you flexed, it's still there.
You got to make it up.
It's not like I can say, "Hey guys," and you're slowly getting there, and you're not there yet by any means. So I realize that, and I don't want to say, but you are slowly getting there now with some onboarding of employees. Like you can get some production and some progress moved if you've got to step away, but you're still very much hands-on. You're still very much tied into the process that there's not a whole lot that's going to happen without you there to guide that ship.
Yep.
But that's the problem. When you're not there, man, everything the factory just shuts down.
Yep.
You know, but people, they take it for granted that what it requires for an entrepreneur, for a small business owner to gear back up, you know, and to fire the process back up again. It's not as easy as everybody thinks to be down. I mean, whether you're down for sickness, you've had an injury, you want to go on vacation, you know, you kids got a school play you want to go watch. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't want to use the word inconvenience, but I'm really not sure of another word to use because you had the convenience of being able to adapt life and make it happen. Mm-hmm. You know, hey, yeah, dad can be there. You know, I mean, there's very few situations where I have to say I can't be there. I mean, if I've got a hard install, you know, and it's already been set in line, and then yeah, that's happened. But there's very few situations where, you know, I have to say I can't be there or I can't help.
Yeah. And you have the absolute 100% ability to sit at home all day and watch TV and not do anything. But when you start have to make phone calls saying, hey, it's going to be another day, you know, and the builder's like, well, I mean, okay. You know, when we had COVID in 21 and 2 weeks, I did not go outside of my house, 2 weeks. And so as soon as I got...
Not because of COVID, like because you had COVID.
That's right.
Not COVID concerns.
You
were down with COVID.
I was
y'all were down. Y'all were down.
We were down. And we had, I don't know what variant, Delta or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, we were like, couldn't move, about to die. I mean, it was horrible. And I called the builders and I said, look, we're down. I said, I have no idea, you know, when the whole family had it. I have no idea when I'm going to be back up. The guy that I had working here at the time wound up having it. He didn't get it from us, but he got it because guess what I had to do with him? Sorry, bud. Yeah. You go home. We did give him partial pay, even though he didn't come to work. It's not his fault. But then once he had COVID,
another hardship of being a business owner, trying to do the right thing. I mean, you want to try to do the right thing, but sometimes doing the right thing is at the detriment of your own family.
That's it. And so we had to give him gas money and stuff, you know, so we didn't give him his full check, but it was almost his full check the whole time we were out. Nothing was getting done at the shop. I was on the phone with the builders, and I couldn't even really talk. I couldn't put together a coherent sentence. That's how bad it was. It was like a brain disease, man. It was really weird. But anyway, and he was like, okay, dude, just get better. I'll handle what I can. He said, we're going to probably go ahead and do the floors then. We're going to go ahead and do, you know, the sod and everything. But when you get back up and going, we're going to be ready. And that complete house was at 100% standstill. They had done everything they could do without cabinetry there. And so you're holding up, I don't know, a $500,000 house from being completed, and daggum interest rates are steady rising. and but I was communicating with the builder, and eventually we got over it. But yeah, all that to say, dude, if I want to take a day off, I can take a day off, but you got to make that up. If you miss a day of work, if you have a 9 to 5 and you call in sick, yeah, you just burned a sick day or whatever, but you don't have to make that work up.
No, you might have a few things sitting on your desk that you still need to do, but
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of time. I mean, and there's some businesses out there like, yeah, you're the only signatory for whatever, and it's still going to be sitting there waiting on you to show up, but the whole shebang doesn't shut down, because you're not there, I mean,
and it was killing me, and I'm sure it was you. You're sitting there at the house, sick as can be, can't do anything, worried 24/7 about, man, when I got to get back out there, man, I'm getting behind.
Well, your back time and everything. You're like, okay, so I'm out today. So if I can get up tomorrow and I can work, then that means I should be able to catch up. Well, I know I'm not going to be able to function. I'm not going to be 100%. So I'm probably going to get this much done, because you got to gauge it, because if I go 100%, I'm going to cause myself to maybe possibly relapse.
Yep.
That puts me 2 or 3 days further behind. So you got to kind of be smart about it. Like, I mean, and I'm not a lot of things, but I'm not lazy. I mean, I'm a pretty diligent worker, and I'm pretty hard worker, I like to think, but I've also kind of toned myself down to the point where, like, I understand the getting off of the bed and back into the work process, because I've done it. I did it with COVID. I don't know for sure that I had COVID. Possibly, probably, during that whole thing. I never went and got tested or anything, but I would go to work, struggle through the entire day, wake up the next morning, no possibility. I was like, I'm done. I don't have the energy to move. I'm not going to be there today. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And I was superintending for a builder at that time. And then the next day, later that night, I was like, all right, I'll be there, because I rested, I was like, all right, I'll be there tomorrow. And then so I was like every other day. And finally the guy's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to be here.
Yeah.
He's like, but when I'm here, it's killing me.
Yeah.
And it's taking me a whole day to get over being here. And he's like, well, stop being here then. I'm like, well, I need to be here because I need to work, because I don't have sick time. I didn't get paid if I didn't go. And and this was a pretty new position. Like, I hadn't been with this guy very long. I was like, I feel like I owe it to you to show up, because you gave me a job. He's like, well, you're not doing me much good. Just take an extra day and get back. So I kind of finally kind of made me realize that getting off the couch, you just can't jump 100%, or you risk doing more harm than you do by going in and working 3 or 4 hours, coming home, getting a good night's rest, kind of recuperating from those 3 or 4 hours, and going back in, getting another 3 or 4 hours. Then you do the day on, day off thing,
Yeah.
Because, like I said, turning that factory back on, and anybody that's ever been in production work, boy, I know your previous job, you shut that sucker down for the holidays, and then it's a week-long checklist to fire a machine back up, and it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's what it feels like when you walk back in there after a few days. You're like, okay, what do I do here again? Like,
I started
what's
by
our
designing.
mission?
I would come in, when I could actually get out of the house, and I was coming in and I was working on design and drawing cabinets, and it's almost like I was just drunk, and I sat there and I kind of looked. I was looking at the drawings, and I was like on the screen, and I said, wait a minute. Dude, it wasn't even the right house.
Yeah.
I was drawing a completely different house, and I said, okay, I can't, this is not going to work. And I went back, and let alone operating a table saw or a joiner or something, and you're out of it.
Or picking stuff up. I mean, that's I'm like, that's nothing. You got to understand. I mean, it's physical labor. It's not like, and look, you got to have your bean counters. Unfortunately, you got to have your lawyers in the world and that kind of thing, but there are physical tasks that you just can't, a welder, I mean, a pipe fitter, whatever, I guess the trades is the easiest way just to kind of sum that up instead of stumbling all over trying to think of different people. But, but the trades, I mean, when you are physically having to do something during the day, it's a whole different ballgame when you're sick,
Oh yeah.
A 50-pound cabinet is now an 80-pound cabinet. Like
Yep.
it's just not the same. I mean,
your
that same
lungs
piece
aren't.
of plywood you're flipping and flopping around every day,
Yeah.
it feels like you're trying to flip over a freaking 2500 Ram. I mean,
And you're sitting there like almost cussing yourself out, like, "Why you can't? You weak sauce!
I know.
What are you doing?" And then you're like, you're heavy breathing and stuff, and
you finally throw it up there and you got to take a 10-minute break,
yeah, and that's how it was. It took months after COVID to get our our wind back and stuff. But yeah, all that to say, yeah, if we wanted to go out to eat one day, we don't have a strict 30-minute lunch. We have to be back on the line after lunch and start working. But it comes with it's a trade-off. You're trading, clocking in at a certain time, clocking out at a certain time, and doing some mundane task all day that you hate for the stress of running your own business, the responsibility of running your own business, especially with us because we're in charge of every single phase. We don't have designers handing us drawings and just say, build this. We've taken care of everything, So it's a trade-off. So yeah, if I want to sleep an hour in, I can, but I pay for that and the skills and abilities that it takes to run any business. It's because what they don't see, yeah, they see me being able to get up an hour later if I want to, but they don't see me out here at 11 o'clock working on drawings, out here painting till midnight. Nobody wants to sit and throw that up in your face.
right.
They're all
yeah,
just like,
you do
oh,
whatever
look at
you want to
do
whenever you
whatever
want to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to make and I did well for a few weeks. I mean, we made it into February at least, but that I kind of committed that Sundays I'm not going to do any work. I'm not going to work on Sundays. I'm going to do what it takes to keep myself ahead. And if I need Sunday, then I'm just not going to stress about it. I'm just, I'm going to do whatever it takes, but I'm not going to work on Sundays. Well, that didn't last very long. I mean, I think I've worked the last 3 Sundays in some small capacity, and I hate that, and I'll get over this and I'll get things. It'll take by the time we want to go on vacation, I mean, I'll have it all sorted out again, and then somebody will want to go on a trip, and
Yeah.
it'll all turn back upside down again, and then you're working 7 days a week again to catch up from going on vacation, and then and it's like, actually, y'all go on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay. I mean, and you don't want to do that because you don't want to take away those family memories and that family
Right.
time. I mean, I've got one gone and one that's still here, so I mean, I'm holding on to those family memories is getting really sentimental in my world. I mean that. I found out today. Like, I mean, I woke up and I was like, are we in a war or anything? Like, has anything major changed in the world? No. Okay. I was like, and then my wife's like, and your daughter's coming home next weekend from school. I was like, oh, why? Is it summer? What happened? Like, I was like, how long was I out? She's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. She told me it was some holiday coming up next weekend. I was like, oh, I was like super excited. I mean, it's been a month. I mean, she hadn't been home in a little over a month. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, awesome. And I was like, oh crap, I'm working. I'm gonna have to work next weekend. But no, other than that, I mean, that was kind of the downfall of the week, I would say, is just getting sick. But I got something coming up this week that I'm super excited about to talk about next week. I'll give you a little, so I'll tell you, so we both use different softwares to design cabinets with, and they're cabinet-based softwares. And I've wanted to dabble, and I've tried to make the cabinet software do things that it's not supposed to, and I've had some relative success with it, but it's supposed to draw cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a local woodworker that is a really talented guy and has really decided that he wants to kind of take his focus more on the teaching side of things than he wants to do the actual woodworking anymore.
Yeah.
And he was hosted some SketchUp classes, local, on hand, hands-on, where you go and you learn how to use SketchUp. And I've done like sat down with a computer, put the YouTube on the TV, and tried to follow along. And I've made decent progress. But anyway, I got a 2-night class of SketchUp this week that I'm going to with my partner's going with me. So we're going to do it together so that we have somebody to fall back on for information. So pretty excited to see that kind of come through. And then, all the catch up from this last week, trying to jump those hurdles. So that's 2 nights of class, that will interrupt the week. But I'm interested to see how that goes and curious to come back and talk about that. Have you ever played with SketchUp at all, or?
Well, I tried to one time.
Yeah.
And it's weird because you get used to your program.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do the same clicks and buttons and all this that I usually deal with in my program. And I was like, why did they design this like this? This is the stupidest bunch of... Who's going to figure this out? And I'm like, dude, if somebody opened your program, no chance they're going to...
Yeah. Is yours a lot of... are you a lot of keystrokes in... you're in Cabinet Vision, right?
No.
I'm
Pro 100.
Pro 100.
Yeah.
Are you a lot of keystrokes, or is it just pretty much just mouse clicks?
It's mostly mouse clicks,
Okay.
but then you keystroke when you have to adjust something manually.
Okay.
And I won't take you down that long, boring.
No,
everybody be asleep driving, but
yeah, because for those that don't know, so like SketchUp is a lot of shortcuts. It's kind of if you're familiar with like a Mac-based program versus a Windows-based program, it's got a lot of those keyboard shortcuts to do things like a Mac does, versus like the software I use, Mosaic, is pretty much just point and click.
Well, you need to learn it. What I need you to do is I need you to learn angled cabinets.
Oh yeah.
Because then I will send some of the stuff. My program doesn't deal with angles efficiently. You can
Mine
do
doesn't
it.
like it either.
Yeah, you can do it, but it's like, it fusses at you. It's like, hey, and there's parameters in the program. There's a reason why it does that. But it will still allow you to do that. It just takes a lot of time to do it, So, basically if you have a 62-inch, wall where the cooktop is or whatever, and it's angled 45, it's in between the other two walls, and the cooktop's angled, and you got 12-inch deep overheads, but then you have a 14-inch deep microwave. How wide, the way those angles work out in the corners, a lot of that, I just do some basic trig or geometry and figure it out. And then what I have to do is I have to figure out the math on paper,
right,
and then build the cabinets in the program.
Gotcha.
And then it all works, and that's kind of what I wind up having to do is just a lot of math. But there's a guy that does stuff like that for a living. He is some kind of he's a drafter. He does draft work.
Okay.
So he's got all these CAD programs. He can draw it, but the holdup is he doesn't really know cabinetry. So when I'm trying to tell him what I want, he's just like, what are you trying to, what's that, and it gets lost in translation, and then we're both frustrated. So
I'm trying to get it out to a cut sheet. Like I can draw it on a piece of paper and it'll work, but then I need it out in a cut sheet.
Yep.
So that I don't lose it.
If I know my dimensions on paper, then the program's fine. But trying to use the program, it's like, hey, I'm not used to doing this.
Yeah, my program, you have to start going in and manually overriding the formulas.
Yep.
And just knowing again, it kind of gets into the shortcut side of it. Like you can go online. There's a lot of guys online. Mosaic's pretty good software. If you want customer support, stay away from it because you're not going to get any customer service out of it. But there's a pretty hefty Facebook group that is pretty supportive and can do a pretty good job of helping you out, for it.
And there's a guy, if I mention his name, you would probably know it, but he's in the cabinet groups, and he doesn't sell CNCs, but he
JB
deals with,
or NF.
No, not JB. NF. Yep. So He, and so he also does mosaic.
Yep.
So if you got a CNC, he'll come through there and he'll teach you stuff in mosaic to run the CNC with. So,
Yeah, I think that's like his whole business is
Mhm.
now at this point is just basically teaching you everything that Mosaic won't teach
yeah.
you.
And the reason we're not saying his name is because we don't know if he wants his name said.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
he's
like,
already getting hammered.
yeah, we don't have a problem with him.
He gets
with
hammered
either
all
one
the
of them,
time with questions and everything. I don't want to overload the guy. I mean, I don't know how
yeah,
I don't know how he keeps up with. And he just released a tool. He just released this new, and I don't know anything about CNC really, but he's developed this tool holder and written a program for it that makes it easier to do a change out and everything. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, he's a super smart dude and
yeah. So,
but he's very helpful. If you're in that
Yeah.
world.
and
But
there's
and Pro Cabinet, or I keep saying Cabinet Vision. Pro 100 may have. Do they have a Facebook group that's?
no, but
for it?
what Pro 100 has is a man by the name of Emmanuel.
Oh yeah, you have your own sport guy.
He is my own support guy, dude. He knows me. I know him. I know about his kids. He knows about my kids. I can call him right now. I promise you, if I called him, he'd answer the phone.
Well, for what you pay for that, you should get somebody to answer the phone.
Yeah, and he.
I mean, I ain't a lie. I mean, you pay significantly more. Well, all our fees just went up in January, so I mean, it's getting because we're a monthly service.
I was about $3,200, I think.
Well, I probably should just pay the $3,200 and move on at this point.
Yeah, but it and we need to spend some. Well, it's on the list to talk about kind of software and stuff, but we know that stuff can get kind of, one groupie. You know what I'm saying? So we try to just dabble in it a little bit. But anyway,
and you almost need to be. So if you're on a hobby level, you don't need to worry about software. Like don't worry about jumping into the software side of things,
especially not software like we run.
Right.
There's I think Cabinet Vision or Cabinet Pro or something is like there's one free version.
I think Cabinet Vision has a free one.
Yeah, you can just slap some cabinets in there.
It's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. You might not get like all your cut lists and everything, but take the extra hour once you kind of figure out your dimensions and just draw a 4x8, on a piece of graph paper and kind of lay out some pieces. It's worth the time to lay them out on a piece of graph paper than it is to burn plywood especially at these prices.
And even if you don't have a program that will do your drawing and figuring for you, I say for you loosely, you draw it, but it figures everything up. Then you can also just buy a cut list program. Yeah. So, because sometimes it may be easier to work stuff out on paper to get your cut list, and then just type your cut list into I use Cut List Plus, and it'll figure everything out for you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to learn how to use that once I learn SketchUp, because SketchUp doesn't have, I mean, you're just drawing in SketchUp. It doesn't know what you're drawing or what,
That's
so
right.
then you kind of create things. I've seen it done. You kind of create things and you tell it what they are, then you export it out to, Cut List Plus or whatever, and then you can get a cut list from it. And it kind of optimizes.
Sensei used to have a program to draw in, but then he would have to manually type every single cabinet part into Cut List, and a little typo when you're doing that and you figure it out after you have the cabinet, halfway put together.
Yeah.
That's bad news.
Yeah.
So, I would say a cut list is very important to use, but then once you get a program that automatically labels and ships all your pieces to the cut list, gangbusters, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. If you want to sit there with a piece of paper and a ruler and call yourself old school and spend 4 days drawing stuff out, do it. But
just as long as you can afford to do it. I mean, that's
right.
I mean, it's your time. I mean, how do you want to spend it? You want
to go out with a handsaw and light a candle. No electricity. Light a candle. Go out with a chisel and a handsaw and build a whole house full of cabinets in 9 years. I mean, if that's your thing, do it. But
I originally made the investment because I wanted the 3D renderings. That's where my investment in. I didn't really need it where I started at. I didn't really need it for actually the building of the cabinets, because I was building such small pieces and so they were pretty basic that I didn't really need it for that. But I needed the 3D rendering part to show the customer, because nobody wants to see something that I've drawn
Yeah.
of what it's
all
going to look
crooked,
like.
and they're like, "Is that really what I'm getting?"
You're 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 putting in oblong cabinets. What do you mean?
Like Alice
My
in
walls
Wonderland.
are my walls are square. How are you going to get that egg shaped cabinet in here? So that's where my initial investment came from, which it started at $100. I mean, I was like, so for $100 a month, if I can get 5 customers to just go, oh, that looks great, and move on, gangbusters. And then, I added the optimizer part where it lays everything out into, the software. Then I added paperless version where it sends everything to a shop computer, and and everything's divided by task, so my panels are one task, my face frames are another task, my doors are another task, and all those cut lists are divided out inside of there. When I go over to the face frames and I'm cutting face frames, I just hit that face frame tab and I just go down the list, cut all my face frames, and I'm done.
Yeah, and I'm OCD about that because the cut list is going to lay it all out for efficiency, right, on your plywood or whatever, and that's fine. But when it comes to my frame parts, I actually take those out of the cut list and put them in on an Excel file.
Oh yeah.
And I organize them from widest to narrowest. So if I got like a 4.5-inch style or whatever, all the way down, and then each group, all my 4s, my 3s, my 2.25s, 2.5s, 2s, 1.5 inches, whatever. Each one of those groups are in order from longest to shortest, and it takes 2 minutes in Excel, But I'm used to reading it off of a cut list like that, because what Cut List Plus is going to do is randomly lay them out on your lumber, and they're going to be all. So when you're at your slider, you're at 12 inches, and then the next cut is at 42, and the next cut is 18.5, and the next cut is 35. What I do when I go longest to shortest is I'm just moving my slider. I'm constantly moving it closer to the blade, and so I'm not going back and forth.
You're cutting all your 12s at one time, then
That's
all
right.
your 6s at one time.
Yep.
Yeah, I just recently, I was so frustrated on this job. I was cutting face frames, and so like I would grab the biggest number, kind of like what you're saying, but I would have to scroll down and so I would cut it, and then I would have to check through the list to see if there was another. So say it was 29 inches. I'd have to scroll all the way through that list to see if there was another 29, and you guess it, almost every time you're going to miss one of something.
Yep.
I was like, and I got on the Facebook group, which I don't do a whole lot, and I was just, this is stupid. Why can't you sort these? Like, why is this random thing? Somebody said,
you're all mad and everything.
yeah. And this guy was like, click on the name above that, and it'll sort them. I was like, oh.
How about that?
I've been beating my head on a wall for months over this for a year and a half. Why? But it doesn't look like it's anything clickable, and it really it's an Excel spreadsheet. It just doesn't look like it. It's just it's just fancified inside the program. But that's all it did was I just hit a sort by clicking that measurement at the top, and then same. So it did the same thing. I was like, oh, so now I can just move my stop block as we go in. I was like, I mean it. And it probably sped the whole process up by half an hour.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
20 minutes.
Absolutely, it does. Again, if you save 1 second per cut, and you're cutting, I don't even know how many face frame pieces I cut, but
Well, and every 29 was 29. I mean, so every 29, if it was 29 and a 32nd, or 28 and 31 32nd, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was the same because I set the stop and I cut everything on. Yep. And then moved to the next, set the stop, and I cut every one. So if I have just the slightest deflection in there, I'm okay.
And another thing is,
even though I don't want it, but I got it.
Yeah. If you go to 21, and then you go to 12, and then you go back to 21.
I'm not again. I'm not hitting it.
Are you on 21? Are you on 21 in the 64th? Is your eye held in a different position or something.
If it's a whole number, I'm probably pretty good. If it's a 16th, I'm off.
Something funny about Trey, and he'll laugh at this when he hears this. Trey, I'm going to tell on you. Dude is dead on. Whether it's a 32nd, a 16th, whatever it is, he's dead on. You know what he screws up on?
Is it the whole
inch
number?
mark.
I do.
Like if I need 18 and 17 30-seconds, it'll be 19 and 17 or 17 and 17.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do it a lot. It's every now and then. But it's just crazy to me that he's off by a whole inch.
Yeah.
He doesn't get the wrong 30. And we laugh about that, man. And it's so funny. I mean, at the end of the day, dude, I cut the plywood up. He cuts things like, drawer box pieces and frames, toe kick, because if you screw up a piece of toe kick, who cares? Cut another piece of toe kick. It's not that big. But if you screw up, 5 or 6 big cabinet backs or something, now you're eating through a lot of plywood. And I'm not saying he couldn't do it. He absolutely could, but we all make mistakes. And if somebody makes a mistake on something like that, I want to be the one to have to eat it.
Right.
Because he's going to feel real bad, if he ruins
Well, you at
the
least
whole
want to
shoot.
get him to the point where you can say, I've shown you. Like,
exactly.
You've had time to learn this. Like,
Yeah.
And whatever time, I don't know what that timeline looks like. I mean, that's your shot, your role, but you want to at least be able to say, not my bad in failure to teach. It's kind of your bad in failure to do.
And this is good, him doing the beehive tops, because it's a lot of repetitive motions on the table saw with short pieces that he can have variance in, and it absolutely not hurt a thing.
Yeah.
Right? These are rough size. I mean, they're not built to any sort of real specific standard. So it gave him, you got to think, he's doing 150 tops. Each top has a box, a really short box as the frame. That's 4 pieces. So that's 600 pieces he's got to cut. Then he's also got to rabbet, on the corner. So it's just thousands of steps across the table saw. And what he's doing is, it's not that big of a deal. If he messes one up, there's absolutely no issue. But he's learning that muscle memory.
Yeah.
Just by repetitive motions on the table saw. He's getting comfortable with it. He's getting his muscle memory. He knows what to expect. So then if he does have to do a sheet of plywood or something, he understands. His muscles are telling him, yeah, we got this. He's not like awkwardly fighting it the whole time. So it's really good for him to do stuff like this.
It's a good learning process. I mean, it is. I mean, any little, that's like, I took my daughter to the shop a couple of weeks ago. I think we talked about it, and we built a little cell phone holder box, and I got her on the chop saw, and it's like, here, this is what you do. And first, so she puts her hand up there on the board to support it. She puts her left hand up there, and and she's got her thumb. I was like, before you pull that trigger, I was like, that thumb goes like this. Like,
yeah,
thumb does not go out to the side on a chop saw. Thumb, all fingers extended and joined. You sit pretty like a nice little Marine. Like you all the fingers go to. But what's funny is like you go to boot camp and you do these things, and you're like, why in the world do I do this? Like you sit. Like when you sit down, you sit with your heels together and your knees, and you put your hands stay just like this, and with your thumbs touching your hands on top of your thighs the entire time. Well, you know why they're making you do that? They're making you do that so that when you salute, you salute and it looks right. You're not all deputy dogged out there, with a funky salute, like you're in the Coast Guard or something.
I'm not in it. I'm not in that.
I'm not gonna throw other branches like the Navy under the boat. But and every branch does things like that. Like they make you do things for a particular purpose, and you try to make those steps in later in life, and that's why I was like, so when she put her hand on that saw, I was like, no, this hand, your support hand, always goes on the board, and your thumb has to be tucked every time. I was like, because that's how you accidentally are too close to the blade. You think your hand's clear and your thumb's not. You come down and it's too late. I mean,
it's too late, because when it's too late, it's too late.
Yeah, especially with power tools.
Trey got hit with a board on the radial arm saw. He cut it, and then and then somehow or another the board between the blade and the stop moved. Or I don't know. I was in the office, I think. No, I was down there, but I wasn't watching him. And so when he was pushing the radial arm saw back, it caught the piece of wood, hit the back fence, and rebounded and came. And I mean, it put a nice spot right there on his knuckle.
Oh man,
but what did I hear? I heard boom, and then he snatched his hand back, and I said, "Oh shoot, man, here we go, here we go." And then he just kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and he was looking at me, and I was looking at him. I said, "One of us got to look down there, you know." And he looked, and of course it was just, you know, like he took a little piece of the skin off, but it wasn't a blade that contacted him; it was a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And Sensei got kicked back on the table saw, and it took a complete fingertip off.
Yeah.
Didn't even touch the blade.
Not too long after I left, joined the military, my dad was at home doing something on a table saw. I'm not exactly sure what he was cutting. And, I mean, because it was y'all's senior year, so you were still around. And he cut off, like, I think it's these two tips of these two digits both. I think they saved the ring finger, but I think it's his bird finger is gone, or maybe the other way around. I can't remember.
Well, that's unfortunate.
But it kicked it up, and he slapped it like the material come up in his face, and he slapped it down, and he slapped right on top of the blade.
Yep.
And over and done with. That's one of the worst. The way you react, is can be terrifying. I mean,
when I hurt myself with that chisel, it was so stupid, and
it usually is.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a reaction. It was I was literally holding a piece of laminated beam. It was a table leg, and I was taking my chisel and I was scraping it across the top, like this.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I need to move my hand out of the way." And I said, "Oh no, I'll send it one more time, scraping the glue off." And it just, dude, I physically just pushed it right through my finger. It was like, sing. And I was like, okay, how stupid can you be, man? But like I said, luckily, I've been blessed to not have any major accidents or anything so far.
Yeah, I've not had a major one. I've got one that I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if can you see that scar?
A little bit.
Bird finger.
Yep.
So it that was a table saw kickback. I was trying to do I can't remember what I was trying to cut. It was a piece that was too daggum small to be fooling with, and I cut it off, and was waiting on the. What did I do? I turned around. I had the piece that I needed, and I left the scrap, and I turned around to lay it down, and when I turned back around, that scrap got just in the right way, and it spun it back, and it caught me right in the knuckle. I mean, and I thought it was broke. I mean, it cut me pretty good. I mean, I couldn't do anything with it for a couple of days. I mean, it left a pretty good scar, but I mean, that was probably the worst one. And then I had that kickback I think we talked about during testing where
dude, that was so funny, man.
I got a 3/4 inch. I got a 3/4 inch scar across my belly. And
hey, what'd you do though? Like, what happened? You got that kickback and it hit you in the belly, and you were writhing in pain and everything. What did you do? Why don't you tell everybody what you immediately went and did next?
The same exact thing. Instead of changing my setup and learning from the mistake after I just wailed on the floor for 10 minutes, was trying to figure out how I was going to call my wife to come pick me up, explain to her that I broke a rib, and I realized that I was not dying, and I got back up, and I said, well, that piece is not useful. So I reached back.
I got to cut another one.
Cut another one. And in true guy fashion, I didn't change a damn thing. I didn't change a darn thing that I did. I just run it again and prayed that time. That's the only thing I did differently was I prayed instead of just running it across thinking I knew what I was doing.
That was funny.
Stupid. It's so, I mean, and we do that. It's so stupid. You reach over. Have you seen, there's a push stick, or actually I think it's a holder. It's either called the $10 million stick or the $1 million stick. Have you seen that? Made by Fast Cap. So it's basically a holder. It's like this. It's just like 2-fingered holder with like rubber tips on each end. and then it comes back. So, looks almost like you would scratch your back with it, right? Like a back scratch, pretty long, but like it's for cutting small pieces on a chop saw. So like you put one finger on the deck of the chop saw and one finger on the piece that you're cutting, so that you can put pressure against the back fence and you can cut a small piece.
Mm.
And they kind of jokingly call it $1 million, $10 million stick because it's saving your finger.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of, you put your fingers down there, which they also make another good product. And I guess I'll kind of make a jump since we'll see if it makes a good segue, that I tried and I really like it. So I'm really into zero clearance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it improves safety. But Fast Cap makes a zero clearance tape that you can put on your chop saw. So it's basically, it's kind of a thick film. I don't know. It's almost a plastic. And it's got a good 3M adhesive on the back of it. And instead of like, Etsy ordering a zero clearance, for whatever saw you've got, or let's say you're like me and you got a terrible cheap cobalt saw that nobody's really making anything for, order this zero clearance tape. It's like $20 for like 4 pieces of it in a pack. Clean, take your air duster, blow off all the dust. Alcohol helps wipe down the plastic that's on there, and then you just put this piece across there, and then you run your first cut for your chop saw, and then you've got a zero clearance insert for whatever miter saw that you may own for relatively cheap. And then you need to cut a bevel cut. Who cares? You'll lose your zero clearance because you widened it, but it doesn't cost much. You peel it off and throw another one back on there. But you don't have to worry about little scrap pieces falling down in between there. You don't have to worry about the piece that you need falling somewhere or falling and tilting over and it getting shot. I mean, have you ever done that on a job site? You got a little piece of crown or a little piece of base and it teeters against the fence and gets shot out into the yard. And like, where in the heck did that go? I mean, just the little return, it's just your return for a piece of base.
Yeah. And it slams. I mean,
you look out in the yard and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to cut another one. I'm not going to look for that, But yeah, the zero clearance helps with that. So it's a pretty cool little helpful little trick.
I have to look at that. Yeah,
it's relatively inexpensive. And your tool, I'll let you jump on something, but I wanted to tell you that your tool of the air wedges, I bought a set.
Did you?
And oh my God, did they come in handy? And I want to tell you what they came in handiest the most on. Was this laundry room install. The cabinets were super wide. We kind of talked about that. So they wouldn't fit through the door. So we had to take the garage door off and the laundry room door off to be able to get the cabinets in the house. The heaviest it was a 9-foot exterior door.
Ooh.
And it had spring-loaded hinges on it. So like trying to hold the door in place, trying to hold a spring open. So somebody, Derek was there to put the screws back in, but one of us had to hold the springs open. Trying to hold I said, hold on just a second. I shoved that airbag underneath there, jacked her up, got so now I'm just holding the door on a pivot, and just keeping it pivoted in the right position. I'm no longer having to hold the door up itself.
Yeah.
Oh man, it made the install way better too. I actually had to push a cabinet. Oh, so that first cabinet that we set to get it, I told you the right hand wall was jacked. So I actually slid it between the wall and the cabinet, gave a few pumps on it to twist it so that we could get plumb, and locked her in. And I bought 2 sets of them, so I just left that airbag in place until we got a few more cabinets set and could tie more face frames together. But thank you for that recommendation. That little, what are they, $20 for
something
a 2-pack?
like that? They're cheap.
It's ridiculous how handy they are for what you pay. But man, I made that airbag useful about 4 times on that one install. It was I was glad to have it in the box.
Well, good.
Sure.
It's a good feeling to be like, man, I got the perfect thing right here in my box, and go get it. And we set islands with them now. Of course, this island, the middle of the island was on an expansion joint. For whatever reason, hey, concrete guys, hey, in the kitchen, okay, love you, but in the kitchen, when you have an expansion joint, it doesn't need to be an inch higher than everything else. Like, we got to calm down on these joints, man. It was like that. And so I set the island, and we got the island leveled. You ever level something and then look back and the whole thing's an inch and a half off the ground? And you're
It's
like,
a
wait a minute.
floating island.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, because what you can do on a big island is you got to level it, obviously left to right, front to back, and everything. And you can just run around in circles with wedges and airbags. And next thing you know, you got the whole stinking thing jacked up.
Yeah.
And we came to find out that it was sitting, one of my stretchers on the bottom was sitting on that expansion joint. And we had to tilt the island back, cut the stretcher out, so it wasn't rocking as bad on there. I mean, the quarter round wouldn't even have covered the gap. It was so high. So we actually had to modify the toe kick a little bit, over the hump so it would sit down all the way. And I've run into that several times lately. I don't know why that is, but they'll have a hump in that joint.
And so I don't know what the difference is geographically. Maybe we can ask when you have one of the builders come on, maybe somebody can tell me why. But we have very few slab homes here. Most everything here is conventional floor.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah.
Everything here is slab.
I don't know if it's something to do with the limestone. Because I'd never heard of radon treatment or radon testing before we moved up here. The first house we bought, they were like, "You want to do a radon test?" I was like, "Nah, I don't know what that is. I don't want to do that." And then I found it's a pretty extreme carcinogenic.
Yeah, y'all just trying to gig one over on me. I ain't falling for it.
Well, I do find it ironic that the guy who does the mitigation for the radon also does the testing for the radon. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the inspector also being the handyman. Like that draws caution in my world. I don't like to see the same person that diagnoses it that also does the fix, but I guess that's what doctors do too. So,
we got a buddy that we went to high school with that works on foundations now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he works for Alabama Foundation Specialist, AFS.
Huh.
He's like one of the lead guys, and anyway, he'll come look at your house. He'll inspect it, and then he'll tell you exactly what all you need to buy to fix it. Mm-hmm, and, man, I give him such a hard time about that.
That other company I work for that I love so much, that Terminex company, they do the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me look at your crawl space. Oh, well, I can tell you why you can't breathe. You need an encapsulation. And by the way,
worry.
We could do a $12,000 encapsulation for you. Yeah.
I had him, the house that got condemned because it was falling down and rotting. I had him come look at that, and he's like, "Dude, are you serious?" I was like, "What, man?" He's like, "You don't even need to be in this house." And I said, "Let me guess, man. You're going to come over here. You can fix it and all that." And he said, "Yeah, man, about $60,000. I said, "Man, I almost hit that joker right in the mouth, man." But yeah,
and I'm also on commission, just so you know.
Yeah.
Well, what you got a tool, or where do you want to move? We got some time left.
Yeah, we got some time left. I do have a tool that I found out about him. It's not really a tool; it's a brand. I found out about him on Instagram through, I can't remember the guy's name.
But anything on the gram is money.
Yeah. Spider blades.
Ooh, I love spider stuff.
I've got a tiny 7 1/4 chop saw that I cut scribe and baseboard, whatever, on a quarter round, not baseboard. Anyway, and I noticed the other day, I was like, man, that blade has been on there for a long time. And it's still no chip out, no nothing. It cuts like butter, super quiet. And so we were in a big box store, and I needed the radial arm saw, whenever our blade gets dull, it screams when you're cutting wood, man. It's just, and, it's sitting there blowing out the bottom of it, and it's tearing everything out, and that's why I need a new blade. So I gave Spider a run, because they did so good on the small one. And, dude, I'm telling you, man, I run CMT blades most of the time on the table saw.
Love CMT blades. Love CMT.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, man, I mean, it's super quiet. No whine, no whistle, no nothing. And you can barely hear the blade cutting through the wood.
They're hole saws. I love them.
I've heard that's what that guy on Instagram said. He uses their hole saws, and he said they're really good.
So one thing I like about Spider for the hole saw is the eject process, which is really, really hard to explain through a audio program. But if you're ever trying to if you're ever cut a hole and you're trying to get that chunk out of the hole saw with the spider, you just press a button and you pull the chuck back up the bit towards the drill, and it leaves the chunk of wood there on the bit.
Really?
Yeah, and you just kind of unscrew it off. Yeah. And then there's a way that you can, I think you have to have a second, I can't remember exactly how you do it, but it's supposedly the only one on the market that you can use the smaller bit. Let's say you cut an 1.5 inch hole and like, oh, it's too small. You can use that 1.5 inch bit that you just cut a hole with, and you can put whatever the bigger one is on top of it. And you basically use that 1.5 inch as the pilot now.
As a pilot, yeah.
Yep, and recut
Ooh,
the size that you want to without it walking all over the daggone place. But I love the speed of them. I do. I've got one that I've got the kit, and I just need to replace like my 2.5 inch, because my 2.5 inch I use all the time. Because I've started on outlets, I've started just drilling out 2.5 inch holes that kind of overlap each other, and then I pull the outlet through the box, and that's all I do. So my 2.5 inch one is, and I think I tried to drill a hole in tile with it one time. I think I did.
We used to do a jigsaw for outlets.
Yep.
And then we went to, now we have, we can't stand just to call something what it is. We have to nickname it. And so we got the zit tool is what we call it. And that's the multi-tool, the vibrating, oscillating multi.
Call it an oscillator up here, and people look at you so weird. Like, you have to call it the multi-tool.
Or well, when you hit the trigger, it goes zzz, zzz, zzz. So we call it a zit tool. And anyway, we cut them out for a while with that, and that was pretty fast. But then I discovered the RotoZip, and that was really a game changer. And then Trey tried to one-up me. Have you seen the 4-sided blade that you put on the oscillating tool?
I don't like that thing at all.
Okay, well, he bought one, and it wouldn't even it barely even scratched the veneer off the plywood, and he was like,
I'm going to Christmas wrap him a double box and a single box and send it to him, because they're absolute garbage.
They are useless. They
not walk all over the place. I bought them when I was doing remodels for just, jumping in sheetrock with, and they're terrible. They walk everywhere.
Yeah. Not good. So we use the RotoZip now for them, and that works out really good. But the zit's fast enough too.
See, RotoZip doesn't work when power's already installed. In my world,
well, no, we just mark out the box on the cabinet. The cabinet ain't even against the wall.
Oh, okay.
We mark out the box on the back of the cabinet, and then just stab the RotoZip and then just cut it out, and then set the cabinet.
Okay, I thought you were doing it like a drywaller does.
Oh no, shoot!
Where they run the inside of the box. You've seen that. Where they they just run that RotoZip on the inside of the box because they're doing it before an outlet's in there.
Yeah, and we got wires in the outlets too.
Yeah,
and all these people, man, I'm sure you've seen this. I don't know. You may, You put a built-in beside a fireplace, and they have 976 of those blue cables.
Oh yeah, the Cat 5s.
Yeah, coming through the wall.
Oh yeah,
and there's one on the side of the fireplace that snakes behind the fireplace, comes out on top.
In the Smurf tube. I call it Smurf tube.
Yep. And then they have a box behind the wall that feeds whatever box that they have there or whatever. And you have to set this cabinet, and you got 2 pipes coming out like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about impossible to set a freaking built-in there. And what I do is I'll cut out the whole corner.
Yeah.
If I need to, and just slide the whole thing.
I had a cabinet here not too long ago that was up against the fireplace. Yeah, it was up against the fireplace, and it had a water shut-off inside the fireplace.
What?
Mm-hmm. There was an access panel, so it was like drywalled, like the fireplace offset off the wall, and it had drywall left and right of the fireplace. Fireplace is in the center. On the right-hand side, and there was an access panel in the drywall, and there was a shut-off valve for a spigot.
That's weird.
So I had to take that access panel off of the drywall, set the cabinet, recut a hole in the inside of the cabinet now, re-silicone that access panel inside the cabinet so that you had access to that water shut-off. I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen, but it was for an external spigot. So, which now, if you ever got to work on that spigot, hey, you're kind of happy, but you're not going to know that shut. The problem is you're not going to know that shut off's there.
Yeah. They're going to sell the house and move on, and nobody's ever going to know it's there.
Well, I mean, just a plumber coming by to work's never going to go, I bet you there's a shutoff right here behind it.
In the cabinet.
In the cabinet. Or even in the fireplace before we did it. Like, oh, yeah, there's going to be a shutoff right here 6 inches away from it. You're going to go cut the main off anyway. So I didn't really.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a new code thing or what. It was a pretty new house, but I thought it was kind of weird. But I tell you what I don't understand, and I just tried to solve the problem for this last install, is these stupid smart panels. Are you seeing these now? So it's basically where all the Cat 5 is coming up, and it's where they want you to install like your router, and all that stuff. You can run, a Cat 5 line directly off the router to bedroom A, and there's pre-run. But and I like the idea of the smart panel, but there's nowhere to put anything in the smart panel. So it's this really nice panel on the wall with spaghetti noodle of wires flying out of it and 5 boxes with nowhere to put them. Like they're just, it's just boxes hanging everywhere, and trying to figure out what to plug them up to. And there's one outlet. I've never understood this. There's one outlet where people are going to be plugging things up. Why don't you at least put a 4-gang there? Come on. Yeah. Come on, electricians. Yeah. Hey, electricians, tell people to put at least a 4-gang where their smart panel is.
Yeah, because it's not a current issue. I mean, those things they don't require a lot of current. So, because what's the homeowner going to do? They're going to get those.
Put a power strip.
They're going to get power strips and those freaking 3-to-1s and all this crap and try to overload it. It's going to start. Just the sheer weight of it is going to start coming out. It's going to start sparking. I mean, it's bad news, man.
Yeah. I mean, I get the concept behind the smart panel, but give us somewhere to put this stuff. I mean, if you know there's going to be at least a router in there. I mean, it's 2023. Who doesn't have Wi-Fi in their house now at this point? I mean, it's pretty narrow and limited. I can think of one person I know, and he ain't never going to have Wi-Fi in his house, so ain't no problem. But it's 2023. Like, let's start. If we're going to do these things, I mean, if we're going to run Smurf tube, from a TV setup, if we're going to block up above a fireplace and put power up there, let's put some other things in the smart panel box. I mean, it's kind of frustrating, It's just first world problems. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I see, man. The thing that I'm running into now is a lot of people are putting pools in their back porch.
Yeah.
In ground.
Yeah.
One house that I did has a tiny in-ground pool, and I was like, what are you going to do? I mean, it was probably 10 feet long, 8 feet wide.
Might have been a swim spa.
Well, what it is it's one of those lap pools.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, have the current and all that stuff.
Generates current.
Yeah. And then, of course, the house right behind it, they did it too.
There's a ton of those that came in after COVID, like, because, public areas got shut down and all that stuff, and they're like, well, we got to have something. We got to have some kind of entertainment for ourselves. And they were buying these little kiddie pools basically and dropping them in the ground behind their house. I don't see any value in them, but people are buying them. So more power to you. Sell away if they're willing to buy. But I mean, sell them a quality pool, But even if it, don't sell them a piece of junk. But
Sensei got a saltwater pool a couple years ago, so now I don't have to have one.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just go over there and swim whenever you want to.
There's nothing. The only thing better than your own pool is a friend with a pool.
I ain't lying. And he's super good about it. We don't go a lot. Like, in the summer, we may go 2 or 3 times. I don't swim because, I'm just going to be honest. His wife is there. And if I go over there without a shirt on, she's never going to recover from that.
Are you worried about clogging the filters?
Yeah, exactly. So my hair on my back will be all matted up and everything. You don't need that. So anyway, I don't go swimming over there, but the kids like it, and Sensei and I will cook some hamburgers or something, and you'll hear as we go some funny stories about him, the way he separates his food, like when he buys it. and portions it out. It is it is so alien to me how and it's just him and his wife. And here I am with 3 kids and my wife and me. But the way they handle their food. And so I say that to say, when I go over there for a hamburger, he was so surprised that I wanted 2 hamburgers. He was like, well, what we do is we ration it out where it's like you get a 3 1/3 ounce patty, and then we get 12 of those, and then we freeze them, and I was like, Charlie, buddy, you can't do that with us. Like throw us.
It's like my dad. I've never gone to my dad's house and him pour me a full glass of tea.
Really?
I'm like, why can't you just fill it to the top? Well, you can get more.
Maybe I don't want to get up.
Or you can just fill it up. I mean, every time. Yeah. I mean, just rations.
He could not believe you're going to eat too? I said, Charlie, look at me. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm not 800 pounds, okay? But I eat.
We eat. Right? We're eaters.
I love the whole idea of eating, the process of it. I love to eat. And I was like, dude, I'm not fixing to come over here, sit in this hot freaking sun all day and eat 1 hamburger. Like, yeah. I at least got to have 2, some potato chips. And his wife, Debbie, makes the best brownies you've ever had in your life. And it's a running joke now. Like, every now and then she'll make a batch, and she makes Charlie bring me one to the shop. He's like, here's your brownie. Debbie said, be sure you got it.
I'm down 14 pounds from the last few days, just so you know.
Oh, from your, cough in a jar and send it over here. Man, I need to lose a little bit.
Yeah, I got a Whopper last night, and my wife and my daughter could not believe how they're like, we didn't even eat yet, and you were done. I was like, it's the first real food I'd had in like 4 days. Like, what do you expect? I was like, yeah, he was gone. He was gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're no longer sick. Now you have to make everything up. Good luck with that.
Hey, it is what it is. It's just part of the process. We're going to move forward. We're going to take this week on. It's going to be a busy week. You got a busy week?
Yes. Eventually, I think possibly this week, one of my builders is building his own personal house.
Oh.
And I jokingly asked him a while back, I was like, well, who's going to do those cabinets? And he kind of looked at me and goes, you are. And I said, man, you going to let me build them in your house? He's like, well, I can't find nobody else that wants to build them and stuff. Of course, he plays it off. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Don't let him beat you up over the details. Like, you treat him like every other customer.
Yeah. I'm going to be like, nope, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. But I get a little bit nervous, doing that. And they get the same thing as everybody else. Like the other builder, he built a house and I did all he had a bunch of crazy stuff, man. He was pull-outs, wine racks. I mean, everywhere. It was crazy. So, and then he wound up, he built it in 19, I think, and sold it in 2021 and he made,
the market was way up.
Yep. There's no telling how much he made on that house. But now the other builder is building him one. And I was like, man, I really got, and for whatever reason, I get nervous, because he's going to be in there dealing with them every day. Yeah. And I was like, that's stupid. The other people you build cabinets for, Mitch, they deal with them every day.
You don't get phone calls on those cabinets.
Yeah, like they handle them every day. And right. What I love to do is, especially if it's somebody I know, and a lot of them, they'll send me like a friend request or something on Facebook by the time we're done, and they'll post pictures of a birthday party. And I scroll through to try to see my cabinetry in the background.
I'm like, oh yeah,
up. Yeah, that door's looking good. Well, nothing's crooked, nothing's torn up. I love doing that, man. Just seeing it in the background.
Yeah, it's always good to see your product survive. Or I've had one house that I've been able to go to, after it was sold, and there was a new person in there, and I was able to see my work, and the customer didn't know that it was something that I did. And they were talking about another project, and they said, well, we just want the same grade and same quality as that right there.
Oh, really?
I was like, those? And they're like, yeah. I was like, well, I built those. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, I did. They're like, oh, my God, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I did that. So that was super rewarding. I didn't say anything before, but I didn't say anything because they weren't great. No, but I just, the way it came up was so organic, and and not trying to find a compliment in it. But yeah, it was funny that they were like, "Yeah, we want them built like those."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're like, man, I don't know if I can do that. I'll try. But,
I'll try.
Whoever did these they were at the top of their game.
I don't know if I can get that glue again. That was a rare run on that tight bond. I don't know if that was
so
ultra clear.
We have a lot of stuff coming up. Like I said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be really, really busy because we're hanging we're finishing hanging doors. We're setting some tops. We're hanging doors on another job. A lot of stuff like that. Do you have people like your buddies around there that randomly call
friends.
you?
You're my only friend.
Yeah, well, do you have people around there that randomly want to come in and use one or two things just like real quick?
No, I don't, because I've had that happen, and I finally started saying I don't have that tool. I don't have that. I don't have that.
I got a buddy that called me tonight, and wanted to use my drum sander. He's an old friend, and he wants to use the drum sander for something. And I said, well, you can't come Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but I'll be here Thursday. And he's like, okay. And it's going to be a guitar back. Somebody builds guitars. It is Sapili.
Okay.
And it's going to be the back of a guitar. The other day I came by, and there was a random dude out there, not random, I know him, digging through my trash pile. And I was like, what are you doing? His name's
Hey,
Robert.
Ernest
Yeah.
T. Bass, get away from my trash pile.
I said, Robert, what are you doing? He goes, well, I was looking, the wood under my mailbox rotted, and so I got to replace it. You know, the little piece of wood your mailbox sits on.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, that's pre-finished birch, 3/4 plywood. It's going to last about 3 days under your mailbox. So
Bananas.
yeah, so I gave him a little piece of cypress that I had laying around and stuff. You know, there's people all the time.
Well, you have a very small community where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah,
too.
and I'm right on the road.
Yeah.
And they just come, and they know if it's out there in the burn pile, you can have it.
Yeah.
I've had pallets go missing. Like, there's one dude that he just couldn't stand me throwing anything away, and he would come every week and pick up just about all my, like 80% of my scrap pieces. He has filled up 3 school buses full of scrap.
Yeah, you told us about him, and he ain't used none of it.
Ain't used none of it. And then I was like, see, that's why I can't keep it.
Yeah.
You know, because I'd have 50 school buses full of scrap. Like,
Man. You know the scrap rule.
what do you got going on next week?
Man, I've got a fireplace I'm putting in. It's kind of a faux fireplace.
Okay.
Built in a bedroom with a little electrical fireplace and a TV box. Get that all wrapped up. Get this laundry room wrapped up from being sick. Got that classwork, and then get materials for another. This is the laundry room coming up with the cabinets, the washer and dryer in the cabinets.
Okay, yeah.
That's we're up to that one now. So pretty much, and then try to be around when the oldest daughter comes home this weekend. That's the main driver, is to not be working this weekend so that I can be around for her.
Speaking of oldest daughter coming home, we're going to look at a vehicle Friday for my oldest daughter.
Oh man, that doesn't seem right all the way around, man.
Who you telling?
I'm with you.
And I was like, what do you want, like a Honda Accord, or like, what's that other one, like a little Toyota Camry? And she was like, no, I have to have, let's see, I've got a canoe I have to take. I've got fishing poles I got to take. A metal detector. She's like, I can't put all that stuff in the car. Yeah, yeah, I can't put all that stuff in a car, Dad. Like, what are you, stupid? So I was like, okay, well. So we're going to look at a little, a little compact pickup truck. I'm not a fan of it because of the brand, but it's not mine. And she's been working, and she's saved up almost $2,000 so far. She's only been working since
Nice.
December, into December.
I told you, with her personality, she'd slay it.
She's doing
what
really
she's doing.
good. Yeah, she hit a rough patch and had to write him a letter, with her work. And she was like, hey, look on that application. You guys are not doing what you said, and that's fine, but I'm I'm not going to stay here for that. And they were like, you know what, you're right. You know, you signed on for 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. She was working 6 days a week, some of them 8 hours a day. She's like, I'm 16.
Yeah, she's a student.
I don't need 35 hours, you know. And so they were like,
I have mom and dad to make up for that extra. I just need
you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
But that's what you want. You just want them to learn a work ethic at this point, not to be a slave to work.
Right, because you're 16.
And do that the rest of her life.
Yep. If you already start developing this idea of I hate working, I hate going to work, and somebody was like, why don't you just put her in the cabinet shop? I was like, because it's a cabinet shop. What is she supposed to do? Like run the table saw all day? I mean, it's like, I'm not going to do that.
And she needs some diversity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other customer interactions, other experiences, just other life experiences.
Well, you've met her before.
Yeah.
But she's a little shy, standoffish, like she's not very outgoing. And boom, she gets a waitress job at a local restaurant.
Makes her be.
That's right. That's right. And I told her, first day she was a nervous wreck, and I said, "Listen, just go with the flow, man." I said, "Make sure their sweet tea is filled up, and make sure when they have an empty plate or something that you go pick it up and see what they need." I said, "That's really all there is." But yeah, she's
have extra napkins and always have a picture in your hand. You'll probably be all right.
Yeah, just walk around, look busy. Yeah. So we're going to look at that because we're taking her to work. We're picking her up from work. I mean, and I told them
work is a job for you.
Yep, I've been threatening. Since they have been old enough to understand me, I can't wait till one of you gets a driver's license. Do you know how many trips to the dollar store you're going to go get for bread and milk and something stupid like that?
You know what the worst thing is? And you're well, let's see. Are you staggered where you'll so the worst thing is when you have a driver and then the next one behind, you lose your driver. And now you're driving again for them. You're like, what?
We'll be good because
this was so
15.
great. This was great. I haven't had to take you anywhere in 3 or 4 years. Why now? All of a sudden now I'm taxiing again.
Yep.
Where's your sister at?
Yep.
Like, it's terrible when it is the greatest blessing when you get the driver. But boy, that gap, it's a shocker.
No, because he's 14, she's 16.
Okay.
So he'll be 16 by the time. Now the youngest, we'll probably have to go back to chauffeuring him a little bit.
Well, you'll need. He won't be able to go anywhere after dark by the time he drives.
Right.
I mean, you two be old by then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're already getting to where we can't see in the rain.
Right.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. You worry about sleeping wrong in the bed and getting up and your back hurts for a week or something, but. Well, anyway, that was it, man. That's all I had. I'm kind of hoping that next week is going to be, like I said, I'm sure something to come up, but.
Well, stay close to your phone. We should be getting some pictures on Wednesday.
I hope so.
I hope we nail that. I'm so excited to see it. I really am. And we're going to get this thing going live, and then we're going to kick it off. And I need you to be thinking of an email address. We bought a domain. So I don't want it just to be help at, we need something,
right.
we need something, that kind of matches our personalities for people to email us questions and comments and things too.
Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that.
Let's think about that.
Is it going to be at what?
I can't remember what we bought. What did we buy at?
I think you bought,
the Stile Boyz?
Maybe the Stile Boyz.
I think I had to buy the Stile Boyz.
Yeah.
I'll look back through my receipts.
No, I think Off the Rails was available.
Was it? I'll look back through and find out.
I can't remember. Anyway, yeah we'll figure out.
More than 3
So you need something. You need something at whatever.com. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But other than that, man, I'm going to go downstairs and eat a little bit of dinner.
My wife made taco chili.
I'm very excited.
She said it's going to be done in 25 minutes.
Ooh, nice. We'll wrap up the shop, go home. I hope you have a killer week. Be safe.
You too, man.
Be productive.
Yep.
And for those of you who are thinking about getting into this, consider it strongly. But
do
pray about it. And if you feel the need to move.
You'll know. Trust your gut.
It's scary. It's scary, but it's also better than working for somebody else and being miserable.
And being a number. Oh, one last thing. My finisher I hadn't heard anything out of him today, but he is due to have a child
Oh, that's right.
any minute, any day now. She
Ah.
is 37, almost 38 weeks.
Well, good wishes towards him. Thoughts and prayers. Hope everything goes good there. We'll look forward for an update next week on that.
Yep. We may have another member of the Cat Scratch
Oh boy,
family.
another one added to the litter.
Yep. Hey, 18 years he can start. Well, actually about 14 he can start working here. So
There you go.
anyway, all right, man. Well, I
All right,
enjoyed it.
brother.
It had a good week. You have a good week. Kill it. And if you have any super cool stuff happen, don't tell me.
I won't. Thanks for listening. Thanks for enduring. We appreciate it. We will see you next week.
All right, see y'all.